Welcome. Welcome. Welcome to my dungeon.
Welcome to Kuldrin's Krypt. I'm your host, Master Kuldrin. If you're new to the show, we use our combined 35 years of experience to dispel myths, get rid of stereotypes, and answer your questions about BDSM. You can call in at 865-268-4005 to leave your questions, or visit the Krypt at kuldrinskrypt.com. On this episode of the Krypt, we're going to talk about who pursues whom. But before we do that, we need to talk about a few interesting places to find our show, hit those 3 rules to love by, and most importantly, I have to welcome the co-hostess with the mostest. Hey, Funsize.
Hey, Master Kuldrin.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well now that you've been teasing me all morning.
Yeah, well, I think there was a daddy that slipped my way.
You had it coming with the way you were growling, and you know it.
Yeah, I guess I did deserve that.
As if you had any doubt.
Well, obviously, folks, we are wide awake and doing well today. So this is a very interesting topic that we're going to get into, something that a lot of people have problems with. But as I said, before that happens, Funsize, did you know that we are now number 1 in BDSM on iHeart Radio and Spotify?
I didn't.
Blubry, which is a media hosting company, it's Blubry. They have an app on the Roku where you can find our show if you want to listen to it through your TV. And then, of course, all the smart speakers. You just have to enable the speaker skill as it is on the Amazon device. What are some of the interesting facts that you have?
The most interesting is that we were nominated for the International Podcasting Award through People's Choice for the mature category.
Yes, and thank you so much to all of you out there that went and nominated us. The results are going to be out September 30th, so we will absolutely be looking forward to hearing our name spoken for that. As I get a little cocky and just assume that we're going to make it. No, but seriously, yeah, I'm absolutely shocked and thrilled. We've got the greatest listeners, so thank you all so much for that. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into the rules to love by and then hit some good content. So, rule number 1, safe, sane, consensual, and informed. Rule number 2, kinky. That's KNKI, comes from the KNKI app, available on all platforms. Not a sponsor, but it stands for knowledge, no intolerance, kindness, and integrity. Rule number 3, the quote from Mr. Paul Young. Submission is not about authority, and it's not about obedience. It is all about relationships of love and respect. All right, so, and that will play into this conversation about who pursues whom, because after the pursuit, then you have that relationship of love and respect, but the respect needs to be present the entire time. Before I jump too far in front of myself.
So our definition today is for pursuit, which is, and you're going to love this, Master Kuldrin, to follow, chase, hunt, run after, seek to form a relationship with in a persistent way, or a specific type of activity. Didn't you love that?
Oh, I do. That's all kinds of growly.
I was going to say, I think that hunt part particularly got to you.
Yeah, that plays into my soul right there. I like it. So I guess we're going to hit this with with both ways. Dom pursuing submissive and submissive pursuing the Dom. As we normally do and is custom for protocol, if the Dom is to pursue the submissive, where do you prefer to start there?
Let's take a look at this overall, because what we're really looking at here is a personal preference, because there's no right or wrong. Some tops prefer to take on the hunter's role of pursuing the bottom. For those that do, I do kind of wonder if it has something to do with a primal need. I'm not suggesting that they're all primals. I just wonder if that may be part of it in that moment. And I think that goes back to your love of me saying the word hunt just now. Because you're definitely a hunter. You're definitely a primal.
Yes.
So I think your personal preference would definitely be to pursue as the little old submissives.
Yes. However, I'm also one that is flattered by being pursued, but I can only fight my primal urges for so long before the hunted becomes the hunter. So no, you know me well.
I know.
What next?
The next thing that we have to consider is power itself, because everything we do in BDSM has to do with power. Pursuing someone is a way of displaying power, and tops can certainly view this in a couple different ways. One of the ways is you display the power you want to hold over the bottom by pursuing them, therefore making yourself the more attractive partner. It actually goes back to our lizard brains a little bit, that if you're a hunter, you're going to be a stronger provider. You're going to provide the things that they need because you have that power. So when you have a submissive, it hits the lizard brain part where, hey, this person is a hunter. They're pursuing me. They're going to give me what I need. And therefore, they're the more attractive partner than the dominant who doesn't put in the effort, doesn't pursue them in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I love about the lifestyle is most of the people that I've met are not so focused on the looks, the physical aesthetics of people. I mean, sure, a beautiful body is a beautiful body, but it's a totally different type of connection. And I think that really plays into what you're saying, where it's putting aside so much of the societal symptoms of what beauty is, and actually getting to know the person and making that the priority when it comes to building these relationships with people. I know that, to be frank, as a teenager, and like all teenagers are, I was pretty vain. And so whoever I was coupled with at the time had to meet a certain beauty standard, I guess. Now, this was well over 20 years ago. And again, as a teenager, but as I come into the lifestyle, it really taught me how to focus more on what is really important, because everything else can go away. But if you're with somebody who is beautiful on the inside and you just share that connection, then that's really all that matters. So I think that's a really beautiful side of or a side note of what we're talking about too.
I think you actually said it really perfectly. And I definitely do think there are some things out there, even part of our community, that kind of disable that part of us.
Mm-hmm.
There's one app in particular that I am on called Kinked, and it's basically like Tinder. You go through and you get a list of people every few hours, and you literally sit there and swipe based on what they look like, which I feel is very unfortunate and loses a lot of what this lifestyle is about. But anyway, going back to our main topic, the other point I wanted to make about dominants pursuing submissives when it comes to power is it could also be that you view this as your right as the dominant partner. Sometimes this could be the dominant simply role-playing into the archetype of being the big bad dom who knows exactly what they want and goes after it. I don't think it's true of every dom, but I definitely think there are some out there that play to the stereotype and the show of it by insisting that they always be the pursuer.
Yeah. And I get it, but at the same time, in a lot of cases, I think that it's kind of sad because they feel that they have to play into this certain domly dom aspect of things that just, as we've talked about several times, it's just so unrealistic to begin with. And it's forcing yourself to become something that you may not be, and completely takes out the romantic side of BDSM. When you're forcing yourself to be that domly dom, you lose certain humanities, and over time, it will affect you long term. So it's something that I highly recommend people guard themselves against in doing this. Okay. What else?
I would say the next point I have to make, and I feel like this is true for everybody because it does swing us around to something very real. And that's that we're all people who, for the most part, do the best we can. And for a lot of us, that means that we are going to experience relationship FOMO or fear of missing out. And it pops up when we make a new connection with someone. So what do? We go to that person and we pursue them. We make our want of a relationship known because we don't want to miss out on some amazing opportunity just because we didn't bother to try.
Yeah, very true. And I can't tell you how many times I have jumped the gun because of FOMO and impatience, and it's messed things up or it's worked out. So I do my best not to live making decisions based on fear, because I have found that for myself and honestly everybody that I know that is self-aware enough to make this decision, anybody that makes decisions based on fear usually comes to regret it. But it doesn't change the fact that you see something new and shiny, you do want to jump at it really quick. In the midst of life, all of a sudden, squirrel, and then you go chase it because you don't want it to run away to someone else. Yeah, I totally get that. Anything else on that?
No, I think it's about time we flip this coin and talk about what happens when a submissive pursues a dominant.
Absolutely. All right. So if the submissive pursues the dominant, I guess most of what we just talked about still applies to submissives so far as not wanting to miss an opportunity. But if a submissive is stepping up to tell a dominant that they want to pursue a relationship, it could also be because they feel that it's their duty and right. Now, I've experienced this from the dominant receiving the pursuit, but can you expand on that a little bit more? I know I actually don't know if you have ever pursued a dominant as how we're talking about here. So do you have... What are your thoughts here?
Okay, so first I'm going to share my general thoughts, and then I'm going to share my experience with this. So a bottom offers up their power for the top to wield, and it really is a case of how they pursue. If you imagine a submissive on their knees in supplication, holding up a collar, that's exactly what I'm talking about. The sub is saying, here's this power over me, please use it. So that's my thoughts on it.
That's a beautiful thing, too.
It really is. So the experience I'm going to share is how I came to have a master. So I had gotten to know this amazing, amazing man, and we had a few scenes together. We had vetted each other. The interest was there, and he even came to me and said, if you want anything more, you're going to have to step up and make that known to me. So he tossed me the ball. If you want it, ask for it. So I came to him and I asked for it. I literally said, please, can I be your submissive? And he said, yes. And in time, you can be my slave.
Oh, wow.
And there it was. And it was this beautiful forming of a relationship. But I definitely have offered myself in that way. And it was very romantic in a sense, just because of the respect and love that we had for each other to come together that way. And I guess still the respect and love that we hold for each other now. But that's how we ended up together. Was he said, okay, we can do this, but you're going to have to step up and let me know that you want something more than casual scenes.
So what, do you know why he didn't? Obviously, he did have an interest, and that was his way of pursuing it by throwing you the ball. But do you know why he didn't just directly address it himself by saying, do you want to take this to the next level?
I think for him, it's a two-part answer. One is that he's an English gentleman, so he really does hold to that, to be a gentleman in all aspects. Even when things got downright dirty between us, he was always a gentleman about it. And then the second part was that he wanted to have full consent from me, not the, okay, I'm saying yes just because, what else am I going to do? Say no? He wanted me to be sure that it's what I wanted and what I needed enough that I would step up and ask for it, because he understood that about me, which is also why our relationship evolved into what it was because he always understood things about me that others didn't necessarily try to grasp.
Interesting. There's a lot of moving around background noise.
Sorry, I'm wiggling. I can't help it. I wiggle when I talk about him a little bit. I don't know. I tend to wiggle around like a happy little squirrel girl when I think about him.
Oh, that's precious.
Right?
Well, what about, and that is, I love, and with everything that you've told me about him, I've never spoken with him, but he seems like somebody that I would really get along with. And you have so many beautiful stories from him. But what about in any other case where you hadn't played with somebody? Has there ever been any pursuit to jump on somebody, to pounce, to be that playful little kitten and go after what you wanted? Or was your thoughts prior to him always, well, it was the dom's position to make their interest known?
Honestly, that is the only case where submissively I did any pursuing. Disclaimer, I'm a little bit of an old-fashioned Southern belle where I believe the man should pursue me. When it comes to women, who I almost always am the dominant and top of, there were a couple cases in my life in which I bottomed for women. I always pounced because I was the top, and I get rather ferocious when it comes to chasing a pretty girl.
New pretty shiny must attack.
I don't know. I guess you could say that my very first relationship, when I was underage and didn't understand who I was or what the lifestyle was about, my very first girlfriend kind of pursued me. But I mean, she was 4 years older and very rah. So, but I mean, it wasn't a formal DS relationship, and I didn't really understand almost anything she was asking of me.
Wow. I think watching a lot of new people enter into the lifestyle, no matter how old they are or what their experience is in relationships in general, it's quite often like going to see a peewee football game. Or people just fumble around all over the place. There's so many mistakes made that in most cases it doesn't even do any good to point them out like the first couple of games of peewee football, because it's just not going to stick. There's so much adrenaline going. There's so much excitement. They're just happy to be playing the game that they want to play that they can't process it until they calm down. And as we call that, frenzy, it creates so many of these issues with that personal growth. So until it's recognized that they're in a state of frenzy and they slow their roll, it's gonna cause some interference. I remember when I first started playing t-ball, my very first game, classic moment, first time at bat, smack the crap out of the ball. Ended up rolling to the fence. I was a strong little kid. And I took off running, head down, barreling to the base. You guessed it. Problem was, it was the wrong base. I went to third. We didn't do any kind of practice like that, like running bases or anything. I just knew that that one seemed closer because I was standing on the left side of home plate. So I went to it. I thought I'd have an advantage, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it was one of my more embarrassing moments growing up. But yeah, I think that as with any topic, we lead into subtopics of the basics, which is someone had messaged me last week that said that was one of the things that they love so much about the show. They just found us and binge listened to every episode over like a 3-day period, and how we always end up going back to the basics of communication, of warning about frenzy, these type of things. And I think that in this one, and we haven't mentioned it yet so sternly, but when it comes to submissives pursuing the dominant or the dominant pursuing the submissive, or a vanilla relationship, any type of pursuit taking place, it really comes down to communication and respectful communication. But I'm kind of jumping ahead into my final thoughts. So before I give my final thoughts, there's a few more things that we need to address. And one of these things, which has also been a big topic of conversation for me personally lately, is it topping from the bottom? Is a submissive pursuing a dominant? Is that topping from the bottom? Yes or no, Funsize?
Again, I don't think we have a clear-cut answer here. From some submissives, some brats included, it can be a way of getting what you want in terms of a partner, and there is a case for it being topping from the bottom in that stance. But again, that's certain submissives. And if you think that's what's going on, then as the top, you can still choose not to consent to them. But honestly, there really are some submissives that are just being very earnest and respectful in what they're doing. So as the dominant who's being pursued, you have to figure that out yourself.
Yeah. Now, I got a question for you. As far as the history of BDSM and how it got started in the leather community, do you know what the protocol there is?
As far as the old guard protocol goes, I don't have the particulars of that.
Okay.
Simply because I'm too young.
I didn't know if you had passed it in your studies or personal friendships with some of the old guard. I myself am currently unaware of that. It's something that I wish that I would have researched before we got into this topic. But yeah, that could be interesting. I'll have to go to my books and see what it has to say, if there's any written protocol on that in some of the classic books for it. But anyway, so regardless, how do we, this is kind of a dumb question, I think, because the answer is obvious, but how do we really get the ball rolling, regardless of which way we're going to do it or which side of the slash we're on?
Pretty simple. Communicate. Probably the most used word here at the Krypt. Communicate. Maybe we could start a drinking game. Get through an entire season. See how much you can drink. Shot every time we say it. Don't do that. Don't do that for even a single episode, because some episodes you could literally put yourself in the hospital from alcohol poisoning. Disclaimer: do not play this game.
Yeah.
Anybody, no matter how heavy a drinker you are, please do not do it.
Yeah, and don't drink and play. Never drink and sing. That's bad.
Don't drink. Don't do drugs and scene. I don't care if it's even marijuana. I get it. It's fun stuff. Don't do it.
Well, we kind of jumped on that one, didn't we?
Yeah, big old PSA there. Don't drink and do drugs and scene. The three should not mix.
No. Well, this is pretty short and sweet, and I think we've laid it out. Anything else?
No, I think we covered it really well.
I'm kind of at a loss. I'm not used to not talking so much. I think this is possibly the least that I've spoken throughout an episode. And as I said, one of the shortest that we've had in a while. Yeah. My final thoughts on this, I guess, would be, for me, it doesn't matter. I don't consider it topping from the bottom. I know you mentioned brats, and for you new Krypters, I'm no fan of brats.
Except for me.
I'm no fan of brats.
Except for me.
When you're not bratting, yes, I'm a fan of yours. But no, I just, yeah, no, don't push me into doing something. Be an adult and communicate with me and tell me that you want something. And if I'm your dominant, then I may or may not choose to do that. But don't brat me into doing something, because that's just not going to bode well for you. But other than that, like I said, I don't consider it topping from the bottom. If a sub approaches me, I find it very flattering. As a person who used to have a self-esteem that was pretty much non-existent, I still find it flattering. As a person that has a self-esteem now that is of a healthy level, I still find it flattering. but I also like the pursuit. Now, as I did say earlier, when someone pursues me, I will go along with that for so long, and then my intentions will be well known, because that primal side will come out and I will attack, and it will be fun and pleasurable. But yeah, it's just my nature. And that is also one of the many, many loves that I have for the lifestyle, is that I can be free, as long as it's consensual, of course. And if it's not, then I'm not going to do it. But I can be free to allow that side to come out. I don't have to hide it from anyone. And I've never been ashamed of it, so that's not an issue. But walking around in the world with all the vanillas, you can't just let that be unleashed on somebody. You know, you can't walk up behind someone that you've been flirting back and forth with for weeks, or in some cases months, and consensually, you know that you have the right to touch them or whatever. No Me Too's out there, but walk up behind somebody at a munch and put a hand on each shoulder and get close, not touching or grinding or humping, but get very close so they can feel your energy, and lean forward into their ear from behind and just give them a low, soft growl of sorts, or let that primal nature out and let them know. Because to a primal, that is something that just says everything that needs to be said. There is no doubt when that takes place. The primal romance is a very interesting thing. Of course, I don't always take it to that level, but it's fun. It's fun when it goes there. Funsize?
Trying to get my brain working after all that growling. You want to go ahead and hit through our final note of 2?
Why, Lord, I believe you've got the vapors.
Hysteria. Female hysteria.
All right. Our final note, and we are so grateful to all of our producers. This list is growing and growing, and I can't tell you just how much it helps in paying back for a lot of the equipment that we've had to purchase and all of the fees associated with the podcast. We are so, so grateful. So our executive producers, Jeremiah, Silas, and our new one, Jess. Our senior producers, Matt, Jeremy, Emerald Wolf. Our producers, Kane Sin, Princess Puddles, Heather, and a new one, That Place, which is a dungeon in Oklahoma City. They have chosen to sponsor us. Absolutely amazing people out there. I've talked with the owner, Mytor. Phenomenal. If you want to hear an interview with him, Not Another Podcast, which is KNOT. It's a brand new one. They've got probably 5 episodes out. I've talked with the ladies that run that. And the interesting thing to me is they're both on the right side of the slash. So they're both submissives, and they're running this podcast together. So it gives a very interesting perspective of what it's like on that side. But yeah, That Place, Oklahoma City. So anybody out there, check them out. Also, junior producers, K2SO, which was our very first producer, Irish Mountain Dragon, Funsize's very own husband, Buffalo Dom 84, Licksumi, Payne Waits, JK, and a new one, Shelly. Thank you so much. If you would like to become one of our show producers, go to our website, kuldrinskrypt.com. Click on the support tab to get more information there. Second, BDSMcontracts.org. They donate some amazing contracts for us, 25-page. They come soft and hardbound, MS and DS, trainer pet, owner property, whatever you want. Check them out, BDSMcontracts.org. If you find anything that you like, Kuldrin20, KULDRIN20. That'll get you a 20% discount off of your total purchase. And finally, whippingstripes.com, my personal maker of all things leather and paracord impact toys. Amazing people. I just talked with her the other night. They're going to be setting up a booth Saturday night at the Weekend Intensive, September 14th through the 16th. They will be there on the 15th, which is the main day for activity and education. So super excited to see them be bringing lots of toys, and they're going to be bringing me some special things. So some custom things that I've requested. So if you want those custom orders, just check her out. Search Whipping Stripes, no spaces, on FetLife. You can send her whatever questions you have. Next time on the Krypt, we're going to talk about vanilla with sprinkles. Funsize has done an interview with pod famous Bratty Red. Shout out to her. She's most talked about here, but it'll be her first time on the show. And then my wife, Lady Catherine, and my submissive, Mayfair, I will also be doing interviews with them to get their side of things and how it is to enter into the scene. And I think people will find a lot of useful information in all three, especially a lot of the questions that come in about, well, I'm into it, my husband isn't, or I'm into it, my wife isn't. So can you give some recommendation on how to balance that? I think Lady Catherine will be able to offer a lot of information on balancing that. So
yeah, she will.
Yeah. And as most of you know, I've kind of converted her to the dark side. So she's now not so much vanilla with sprinkles. She's got more of the sprinkles than the vanilla. Yay. All right. Anyway, jump over to FetLife, do a search for Kuldrin, and you can find me. You will find the FetLife group there. That's where most of our conversations take place. We do have Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff, but I don't really do a lot of stuff there. We're kinky, and we need our group to be where kink lives. And right now and for the past several years and for the next several years, that's going to be fetlife.com. So check us out there. But you can get all of that contact information at kuldrinskrypt.com. The emails, the FetLifes, the Twitters, the Instagrams, the Patreons, the PayPals, on and on and on and on. One simple website, kuldrinskrypt.com. Funsize, now that you've had a chance to calm your loins a little bit, let me give you one more opportunity to give a final thought if you have one.
Nope. Brain went jelly.
It was my pleasure. You're welcome. This has been Master Kuldrin and Funsize, as jellied as she may be, for kuldrinskrypt.com. Unearth the truth.